Well, what happened was the remote viewers start remote viewing these beings, and one of the beings goes, who's doing that to me? Somebody's remote viewing me? Brother. I've never even talked about this on shows, right? Oh my God. One of them, according to Quantum Fleet research, goes, do you feel that? Yes, I do. They're remote viewing us. And so the beings had an awareness, and the beings started to remote view these individuals. Now, that destroyed their lives. Utterly destroyed their lives.
Welcome back. I'm here again with Nathaniel Gillis. Nathaniel, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's always good to be with you, and I'm excited to be on with you again. Thank you.
So, you had a colleague recently that had a little bit of a adverse reaction to the phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know if you want to start there, but that might.
Well, yeah. For context, people are going to be wanting to hear that. The phenomenon does not want disclosure. It has proven that fact over and over and over and over again. Even the current models of the phenomenon, as much as they're entertained, they're not disclosure either. Whatever is being published, promoted, even in ufology, it's not real. Sure, we have cases, right, of crashes. And we do have narratives that say, okay, we were after disclosure. But the fact remains that if the phenomenon can create physiological constructs, if it can make something real and then make it not real the next second, then ufology as a field may not really exist. We're thinking, right, again, that we're tracking craft, UAP, that we can touch. It's real until the phenomenon decides it's not. And so it's on radar. We catch up to it. It's not even there. So even the measures and tools that we're using to quantify what we think the phenomenon is, the phenomenon transcends every single one of them. Now, we've known that. Those of us who have knowledge of phenomenology, we know that there have been times even in parapsychology where the phenomenon will say, okay, take the tape out, right? Take the battery out of the recorder, place them on separate areas on the table. The phenomenon will transplace words, audio on the tape without even having to go through the function of the batteries in the recorder, the tapes in the recorder, you plus record. Doesn't care, doesn't need it. So disclosure, again, if you look at how much control the phenomenon has over us, it's not wanting disclosure. The people that have actually punched through the veil have come to realize that, okay? Dr. Carla Turner, you're due for an adjustment. Barbara Bartholomew threatened when she was doing memory regressions, absolutely. We're going to take you out. We cannot have this research being done. Now, the reason the phenomenon didn't want that brand of research being done is because it's a little closer to the correct model of the phenomenon, wherein people are being performed upon, ritualized, haunted, traumatized, and the phenomenon doesn't want people to remember that. So it'll go out of its way, right, to conflate the issue.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Okay, it's one thing. Like, for instance, you're not supposed to remember it. But even if you do remember it, are you even sure that really happened? And if you actually believe that's what happened and you go tell people, will just call you crazy. You won't be heard on radio shows. You won't have podcasts. You won't be at conferences. And that's only if you choose to do that. Now, the next step is if you continue to do that, we're going to go into your home. I've had colleagues where they've set up a new security system and gotten phone calls from the security company. Somebody just tripped something. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. Who is the man standing behind you? Is that your son? There's nobody behind me, Sean. Oh, there is. We can't really tell who it is, but there is a figure behind you. Are you safe and secure? There's nobody behind me. There was. I know people who have went to bed and through studying demonology, it triggered the phenomenon. Again, who really wants disclosure? No, it doesn't. Because once they trigger the phenomenon incarnates in the room, standing at the foot of the bed. Complete control over this research. Complete control. It was no, okay, I have free will. No. The terror that emanated from this entity, okay, made this individual crawl up into a fetal position and just start weeping and crying. Disclosure, again, is not what we think it is. Now, the problem with the phenomenon, again, at least in the field, is that we think disclosure will give us what we want, right? Okay, well, Nathaniel, I'm a ufologist, we're going to disclose if disclosure shows up and actually occurs, then that will mean that they're going to tell us they're aliens. No. When you look at the Collins Elite research and you actually get down to the weeds of what they were saying in their conclusions, they were shattered beyond anything. Their models of the phenomenon, again, being Abrahamic, right? Demons, aliens, Nephilim. And there's something to that. I'm not denying that. But when they got down to it, again, these are not simple folk. These are physicists from the Department of Defense. They're very sophisticated people. They're academics, really. And once they looked at the scientific method and realized, like, what do we have? What do we really have? Disclosure, again, for them was not comforting. It was indigestible, Sean. It was to the point that each and every one of them sat down with the question and said, oh, dear God, we can't disclose this to the world. Because if we did, forget religion. Religion would shut down. There would be such mass panic. There would be questions that the government can't answer or they refuse to. And so at a certain point, they just sat with the question and said, okay, the only thing we know to do is to go back to the Mosaic Law. Now, what's interesting, again, is that the Mosaic Law teaches against contacting entities. That was, in Leviticus and Exodus, it teaches against contacting whatever these entities are. And so at the conclusion of their research, that's the only thing they held on to. It was just, don't even talk to them. Well, they're my guides. That's cool. Mind you, they're not esotericists, by the way, right? They're not occultists. They're people that are looking at this from the scientific method. And they realize through the scientific method, oh, God, we're way over here. We thought we were here in the model, and we're not. It's something over here. And that's when they concluded that it would be more like an ultra-terrestrial model of the phenomenon. And there is a relationship between us and them. Now, what's fascinating, too, getting back to the Collins Elite, they concluded that there were members of our government that were occultists, and what they were trying to do is remote view these beings. Seems like a genius idea, right? We don't even know what they are, right? Oh, yeah, let's go remote view them. Todd, come here. Johnny, let's go. Let's do this. And I don't know about you, but I can't tell when I'm being remote viewed. I can't. Can you? It's insane. Well, what happened was the remote viewers start remote viewing these beings, and one of the beings goes, uh, 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 uh. "Who's doing that to me? Somebody's remote viewing me, brother, brother." I've never even talked about this on shows, right? Oh my God! One of them, according to the Collins Elite research, goes, "Do you feel that?" Yes, I do. They're remote viewing us. And so the beings had an awareness, and the beings started to remote view these individuals. Now, that destroyed their lives, utterly destroyed their lives. And so, again, for disclosure to happen, there would be utter, I guess, catastrophe. The models that we have been given as propaganda on the part of the phenomenon would utterly collapse, utterly collapse. We, and this is some of the research I've been doing lately with my colleagues, we would have to question free will. We would have to question free will. Here's why. Because phenomenon has proven it's precognitive. And the phenomenon has also proven that it thinks for people without them even knowing it. And so, like, one of my
What
colleagues.
do you mean fakes for people?
Thanks for people.
Thanks. I got it.
Yeah. So, I was talking to Steve about this the other day, and it got to a point where the phenomenon was, I don't want to say prophesying, but it was telling Steve and Barry, okay, you guys are going to be here a certain date, a certain time. And they're like, no, there's no way. There's no way. Right? Sure enough, they're there at that date and time. They had no choice in the matter. Absolutely none. They're there. Not even realizing it. Then they go back and like, oh my God, we were told this earlier. So once that started happening with them for like 2 or 3 times, they started picking up on the phenomenon. And a lot like the scene in Truman Show where Truman's at the stop sign. And he sees the little buggy coming over, driving, and he's realizing the pattern. That bug's always there. That truck's always there, right? That red truck's going to pass here. And it happens every day. He's like, well, what would happen if I go against the grain, right? And I turn left or turn right instead of turn left? What would happen? Instantly, it triggered a response for the control mechanism. Now you have the phenomenon coming in. No, we can't. You have to do that. No. Why? Because everything's set up. It's a stage. It's theater. It's performative. Don't do that. Why? Well, if you do that, we're going to take you out, right? We'll be in your house. Don't do that. We're going to hunt your family, like Jay Stratton, where his son wakes up. By the way, he was partially deaf, wakes up in the middle of the night, and these entities are shrieking across the wall, the shadow figures, and screaming at him in his mind. If you don't do what we want you to do here, Mr. Chairman, there will be consequences. And so Steve and Barry are like, well, you know what? How far does this go? Right? How far does this really go? So I think it was up to 3 or 4 times, knowing that the phenomenon was predicting their future and dealing with the headspace of free will. Steve says, I start going against the grain. They tell me I'm going to be somewhere. I'm going to do my best not to be there. And the things that I would do in the past, like my little routine in the morning and all that, I wouldn't do them at all. I would do everything the opposite of, just to push back against the matrix. And same thing happened. They literally forget. And then, boom. How did I get here? Brother, I went around that, I went around that street. I did take a left instead of a right, and I did A, B, and C. And then he realized, oh, God, they were right. I was going to be here. And the reason I got here is not because I did what they wanted. No, I did what I wanted to do to counteract the phenomenon. And in my counteraction of the phenomenon, it brought me right here. So the question is, are we characters in someone else's story? We know through the phenomenon that there are certain people that are avatars for it. We know through Albert Bender's accounts that there is a secret, I don't want to say deep state because that's too conspiracy theory, but there's something else here that is outside of our federal government, that's outside of other federal governments, out even other countries. They exist on this planet, and they're in control. Albert Bender, researching the phenomenon, comes to another conclusion, just like all the other researchers, like Professor Renee Hardy, all of them. He is pulled out of his body in the middle of the night. He's hovering over his body, Sean. Voices began to speak to him. Albert K. Bender, we understand that you're interested in the mysteries of the universe. We advise you to stop. Stop researching. There will be consequences. Stop researching. Next day, he's still wondering, like, number one, nobody likes to be pulled out of their body. That's weird. I don't, that's weird. He goes to a movie. He's watching a movie, Sean. He's the only one in the row. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. To his left materializes a man. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that, Sean? Like, what? This thing materializes out of thin air. Leans back in the chair, Sean. You can hear it. Creak, 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 creak. Looks right at him, and its eyes turn red. It's a warning, Albert. It's a warning. So Albert K. Bender then he writes a letter to his best friend. He's getting out of the field. But before he does that, he's writing a letter to his best friend and says, okay, we've got to do something about this. And I just want you to know where I'm at in the research if it's the last thing I do. He mails the letter, Sean. Goes to bed. The next day, gets a knock at the door. 3 or 4 men are there. One of them goes in his pocket, pulls out the letter, gives it back to him, and says, we just want you to know that we're in control of this. We understand that you're contacting these people, and we know what's in the letter. It's not going to happen. While he's talking to them, again, they are men. They are men. Appear to be. One of them begins to communicate with Albert K. Bender, and in the middle of a sentence, his face, the man's face, changes. And Albert's going, what? Yeah. We just want you to know, Albert. Thanks for doing business with us, buddy.
How did it change?
Shape-shifted. They just shape-shifted. I don't remember, but I do believe it was reptilian. I believe that. I may be incorrect on that fact. What? Brother, it wasn't the CIA, right? It was another species. Another species, Sean. And they did this to make Albert Bender realize we are in complete and utter control here. And you're not going anywhere near disclosure. Now, was it disclosure for Albert? 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There were a lot of things disclosed in that meeting. It wasn't disclosure for the world. They came to him to shut him up. Stop it. Now, that same kind of control mechanism is being employed by the phenomenon today. I know people who have been bought off or approached in an effort to buy them off in the field. You know, you're a parapsychologist, you've been in the field for 30 years. You're okay, look. We know about your data. Really? Yeah, we know about your research and your archives. Now, we want to pay off all of your debt. We want to give you a substantial sum of money. You'll be set for life. But we need you to sign an NDA. And we want to make sure you understand that you can continue your research, go to your own conclusions, right? Keep doing what you're doing. Give us your conclusions now. Give us what you're researching. In addition to that, when you do lecture, here's what we want you to say, A, B, and C. Over and over and over again. And there are people in the field that have done that. They've signed the dotted line. They'll never tell you. They're going to conferences, right? They're doing whatever these entities want them to do. And at the end of the day, they're building altars to them. Oops, there's a hammer. They're building altars to them. And it's not a one-off. It's not a one-off. Albert Bender built an altar to them, and is that it? It's not a one-off. Okay? I've had a Zoom call with a Brazilian researcher. I might have mentioned this in the past with you, man. But a wealthy person in Brazil flew out an ambassador, Pleiadian ambassador. Okay. Well, you go give us a lecture on Pleiadians. We'd love to have that, right? Sure. And here we go. At the end of the lecture, here comes the lady builds an altar to these Pleiadians. And I've spoken to people over there, and they're going, well, what's this? It's not what I signed up for, right? I'm Pleiadian. This seems something a little bit more weirder, weird. She pulls out the altar. She built the altar. She pulls out an idol and then looks at them and hands them a piece of paper. Okay, now go and perform this ritual, and I want you to utter this incantation. What? Yeah, do what I told you to do. We're going to do this. To them, it's the Pleiadians, of course. Of course it is. They perform the ritual. Okay, they utter the incantation, right? And then outside at nighttime, she says, now that we've successfully fulfilled the ritual, they will now materialize. Let's go outside. And they begin taking photographs of balls of light in the sky. Now, to disclose that kind of model of the phenomenon, no. The conversations I've been having here lately with researchers, what would that species be? What would a species be, Sean, that will sigilize an experiencer from underneath the skin to the surface? There isn't. By the way, even demonology is not ready for that. Not ready for it. What kind of a species, okay, would take its handprint, push it out of the body where you see the bottom part of the hand underneath the skin trying to reach out? Where's that in ufology and demo? What model is that? Again, the disclosure wouldn't happen because it would literally deconstruct everything we've known about the human race. Everything. And from my opinion, of course. And that's why I'm worried because, and I've had other conversations with researchers about this specific subject matter where, do we even want to be in this anymore? Because we see the performative nature of the crowd, right? They do not really know much about the phenomenology behind all of this. They have no interest in it. They could care less. It's about coffee mugs, t-shirts, tickets, DVDs, movies, conferences, okay? Meanwhile, we got people who are being sigilized without their consent, and most of the time without their own knowledge, to the point, brother, we'd have to put an ultraviolet light on them to see the iconography on the arm. Walking around, Sean, raising their babies, right? Eating, celebrating anniversaries and birthdays, going to baseball games with sigils on and underneath their skin. What? It's frustrating to me, honestly, and I've been to this point before, right? I'm going to quit the field. I'm not going to, because, there's a lot of people that are following my research and everything, which I'm very honored and humbled by. But dear God, my friend, my God, what are we dealing with? We, again, demonology began and ended with the idea the phenomenon can manipulate our perception of reality. That was it. That was it. All right, guys, there's possession cases. Okay, cool. That's an aspect of what we're dealing with for sure, especially the replication of reports. That is occurring, right? The phenomenon's anchoring itself to an object to stay here. But what this points to is an ultra-terrestrial model of the phenomenon, to where we are absolutely blinded by our sight, blinded by our ability to see. In other words, we interpret reality based upon our vision, even though reality exists outside of our vision. Whatever they are, they're here. Sean, they're right there. They're over there. They're everywhere. We cannot see them until they want to be seen. And when they want to be seen, then we try to quantify it, right? Okay, it's the paranormality of it. Okay, yeah, well, I'm going to quantify it. And then when we try to, at the phenomenon's choosing, at any point, the phenomenon could say, okay, we're done playing your game. Really? Yeah, we're going to manipulate everything about your model. We're going to take control of your technology. We're going to take control of you. Sean, I have a case study behind me in the book Beyond UFOs. Where a little girl wakes up in the middle of the night because she hears the soft voice of her mother calling her by name. She gets up out of her room, walks into the hallway. Mother, is that you? Mom? Yes, Mom. The mother is saying, come to me. Walk towards me. This little girl is walking towards the voice of her mother, looks up and realizes in the bathroom, Sean, the phenomenon had taken all three members of her family, placed them in suspended animation. And she's looking, again, the light's off, but she sees their figures in the bathroom. The problem is, Sean, she hears the voice of her mother, but she's looking at the mouth of her mother, and her mother isn't moving. Something else has used the mother's voice to call her out into the living room. It's when she looks in the corner of the room, there's an entity. The voice was coming from the entity, not the mother. And people in the field want to say, oh, that's no big deal. They just wanted to raise that little girl's consciousness. Are you serious? No, we got to be honest about it. And again, that if disclosure were to take place, there would be uncomfortable conversations that nobody wants to have. Because there are three levels to knowledge: the known, the unknown, the unknowable. We're in the unknowable part, Sean. We are not in control of most of this reality. And brother, if the phenomenon can literally materialize something, what are we dealing with? Literally, again, something's not there. I want it to be there. Boop. Thank you. Thank you for playing the game. And we, in our reality, are going, oh my God, that's paranormal. That's paranormal. Absolutely. Because the phenomenon, again, is orchestrating things. It's maintaining the artificial habitat. It's preserving the simulation. If something goes wrong, it has to update, right? And that's where I'm at with this. And I'm worried because, not worried, but Matthew Brown, in his interview with George Knapp and Jim Corbell, he kind of hinted to the fact that we're living in a construct. And that there are people who've made it out of the construct. Wait a minute, Matt. What do you mean, Mr. Brown? Let's have a conversation here, buddy. Pull up a chair. What? Yes. People exist, and they've left this construct, not through death, through possibly theosis, divinization, or divination, right? They have left this construct. And he pointed us to that and basically said, yeah, number one, here's what the government knows. They have an AI program that can accurately predict the future. Boom. What? You realize the philosophical framework for that? It's an AI program, but it's telling us what's going to happen. Again, this is not astrology, right? It's a program. Now, if it's telling us the future's already happened. It's coming back and telling us. If the future's already happened and it knows about this, how does it know? It's more than an AI program. Again, it's not probabilities here, bud. It's not probabilities. It's, by the way, it's already occurred. It's already written. Boom, 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 boom. Here's a series of events. So what that implies is, again, that we are characters of someone else's story. We get to live our lives, right? There are certain things that we are told to believe in, certain values that we have, and we should. But toe the line, Sean, right? Go do your, 40-hour week job, whatever. Love your family. Go eat good steak. Just do what you need to do. We're going to be over here orchestrating everything. You'll never have an idea. Sometimes you'll see the black cat in the Matrix and you'll wonder, that's kind of weird, right? But at the end of the day, the phenomenon is in complete control. Where have we heard this? We've heard it throughout history. People that get too close to it. Hey, Dad, what is that? Well, it's like Dr. Gary Nolan's case study in France. Dad, there is a craft hovering above our car. What's it look like? They took a picture of it. It looked completely different than what it appeared to the kid as. Why? It's controlling everything. It is in control of everything. In the research I and others are trying to do right now, we realize that there is sometimes a lag in the phenomenon where the phenomenon, again, like a simulation, like a program, will have to update. And you'll see it search. It's triangulating. What we're trying to do now is get enough ahead of the phenomenon to where we can sit down, take a breath, and say, okay, number one, we're going to measure its response time. Is it going to catch up with us? And if it does, again, then it's more like a program. It's more like a program. The school experiment proved that. It took them 500 hours to create a portal between us and them. And once the phenomenon had access, it downloaded hundreds of NHI. Hundreds. And dude, they could not close it. At the end of the skull experiment, they realized we're not in control of this. This was a guise. This was a ruse. This was performative on the part of the phenomenon. The goal was to get us to engage the whole time. It was to get us to engage. And then after a certain point, the phenomenon, again, had been triangulating, trying to download NHI into that world, into that realm. And it happened. Hundreds of them. Not just Mr. Blue. Hundreds of them began to incarnate into that environment. They had to, again, I was told they had to press e-stop. What's that mean? They had to literally shut it down, shut everything down, right? hoping that they don't get followed home. And they did. So I don't know where I'm going to be. You know, I've told you this in times past, brother, where there are good days for Nathaniel Gillis, right? Everything's golden, you know, college football's on. Other days, I realize that this kind of work, like if I were to be married and have children, I would not be in this field at all. Mm-hmm. Nothing against people that are doing that, you know, nothing against that. But I can't. You know, I don't want them coming after my family. I don't want them coming after my wife. And they will. They would. So that's why I'm just kind of looking at things again. And I've been to this point tons of times where it's like, okay, do I want to stay here or do I just want to go disappear and just live my life? Because whatever we're dealing with, again, it's like, okay, you've seen the matrix, you've seen the simulation, you've seen the control mechanism, and you've seen enough of it to realize it's there. It's sometimes it will interfere with us. So that's what I have for you, buddy.
These ultraterrestrials, where do you think, or how long do you think they've been here?
Forever. There's even evidence now, and this is getting into necronetics, where I do believe that there comes a time when a person has performed enough rituals that when they die, they become a part of them. This is the fine line, again, in demonology. They would argue for centuries, right? Where it's like, okay, is this a practitioner or is this a demon? Well, I'll tell you what, a demon's not going to be out there performing Theban sigils. That's an earthly practice. Then what are we dealing with, Sean? That's what fascinates me the most about this particular research. Why would an extraterrestrial or a demon be performing human rituals upon other humans? That's weird. That's not even in demonology. Where's that at? It's not there. Why? Because there's another species here. And it's terrifying. But I believe they've been here for a long time.
And what are the dangers of working with them? Like not working
with them? Oh God, working for them?
Yeah.
We can't stop them.
Are there people that work for them?
Absolutely. 100%. Sean, I can't go into too much detail, but I know of an individual who drinks blood.
What?
Yeah. And I don't work with him, of course.
Yeah, that
but I
can't be healthy either, because you'll pick up all sorts of diseases from that.
Well, no, I do not recommend it. Again, we are not friends,
right.
But I know of them. And through that ritual, Sean, they'll call somebody and say, hey, I'm in your house right now. No, you're not. You're on the phone with me. No, I'm in your house right now. Do you see that fork on the counter? Yeah, okay. This is me moving it. And it moves. Through ritual. Sean, I am convinced that a lot of what we're going to see here, a lot of what we're going to realize and discover, is that whatever these beings are, they are themselves occultists. They are themselves practitioners of something. It, in my mind, is irrefutable. When you have a lady, Sean, who falls asleep and is taken by gray aliens just to wake up with Theban iconography all over her body, that is a practitioner, brother. That's a practitioner. Now, we may not know what kind, right? But again, it's not just alien alphabet. We have context for it. Where is it from? It's from grimoires. God help us. It's a species of practitioners. And I do believe that rituals that they are performing rituals upon people, and that we're seeing the end result of them at the very end of abduction. This is why, again, David Jacobs, this is Michael Heiser, all of even John Mack, where it's like, okay, you look at the case studies and you do realize they suffer from severe PTSD. And psychologically speaking, it's the same kind of PTSD that people have after suffering from ritual abuse. It's the same kind. And so when you're dealing with these people, again, it's not what the phenomenon wants us to remember, it's what the phenomenon wants us to forget. It's that. And I'll go as far to say this. There have been cases where the phenomenon has actually created a theater, a performance, to maintain that individual's perception of reality. Not just a perception of reality, but their perception of free will. We want you to believe you had a choice in this. What? Yeah. We do not want you to realize that we are in control. That's terrifying.
How do you think this evolves over time vis-a-vis disclosure?
Oh, disclosure will not happen. Will not happen. I think that the conferences will still go on. We're still going to have hearings. The people in the know, they're not going to come forward. Why? Because a lot of people think, okay, they're not going to come forward and do the whistleblowing because of the government. No. That's the least of their worries. That's the least of their worries. My God. Right? You're talking about a phenomenon that can actually hack bloodlines, Sean. It could hack genetics. Where you and I think, right? Oh, okay, the phenomenon's targeting me. No. You're the entry point. You're the access point to the entire bloodline of your future. And the phenomenon is orchestrating this paranormal event to hack your bloodline. So 100 years from now, there will be a young man that it's really after. It's what it's really wanting. We just didn't realize it, Sean. This, again, the Collins elite could only quantify them as outside of space and time and in the afterlife. And what that means, it doesn't mean they're in the other room. It means they're outside of the house. It means they have the key to the door. And whenever they want to, they can not just materialize people, materialize anything. And here's what scares me to death. It really terrifies me, is the fact that we know of reports where the phenomenon will just materialize an object in a home. We only know of them because they stuck out. The family noticed it. How many materializations are in reality today? And we have no clue they even exist. When we're driving with our beautiful family out to Longhorn Steakhouse and we look up in the sky and a voice says, "Is that real? Is that another materialization of the phenomenon? Is it the fact that we're seeing glitches? And that's what led us to believe, okay, there's something here. It's a construct. If an apport is a construct, what makes me believe this isn't a construct itself? This doesn't exist. And, when you go to Livermore Laboratories, Los Alamo, they were conjuring the phenomenon. Perform a ritual. And then they'd have a skeptic and an experiencer, both. They were testing the phenomenon. It's a 3D construct on a table. Okay, skeptic, come here. I want you to go pick up that object. Hand goes right through it. What are you doing? Are you making fun of me here? There's nothing here to pick up. It looks real, but it's not. Is this some kind of trick? No, it's not a trick. Go get the experiencer. Go pick it up, experiencer. Okay, picks it up. It's got weight to it. It's real. What? So, again, we're thinking species, and there is. We're thinking, okay, it's UFOs, extraterrestrials, aliens, right? No. That's out there, right? Whatever we're dealing with is interdimensional. Interdimensional. It's here. It's right next to me. It's the shadow figure that opens its own door at nighttime, walks through the closet to another world, right? It's the disembodied voice that speaks to the experiencer at night. It's the voice that I've been told was Steve Merritt told me this. He was at a mortuary. He's in his car, and there are people researching the mortuary. From the mortuary, voices come. Bow down to us. Worship us. What are we doing, bud? You know, at some point, I have to ask myself, if we're not in the Matrix, if all we're studying are black cats, right? And we pick out the black cat and say, okay, these are entities. No, they're not. They're glitches. We're interfacing with glitches within the program. And we've got hundreds of conferences. We sell all kinds of merchandise and all kinds of books, not realizing that we're missing the point of it all. We are studying glitches. Okay? When you have a shadow figure opening its own door, what? Why? We think it's our world. It's not our world. It's their world. It's their world. That's their house. We, again, need to understand where we are in all of this. And that's pretty much all I have for you, brother.
Any final words for the audience?
They're playing by different rules because they're playing a different game, my friend. That's really what it is. And I do believe that Matthew Brown was pointing to the fact, possibility even, that there have been people that have broken out of this program. And I'm telling you, they broke through it by virtue of ritual magic. They've done it. People have done it. They've been recruited by the phenomenon. They have evolved or devolved into this whatever they are out there. And I think Matthew Brown knows this. I think members of our federal government knows this. They know this. And that there is another species here that is in control of it all. Outside of federal governments, outside of nuclear weapons and treaties. They're here and they're in control. So thank you for having me on, buddy.
All right, brother. Always good talking to you. So thank you.
All right, brother. You have a good night, man. I'll see you.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of a expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.